Think Tank, Think Tank, Think Tank. It's Brian here, one half of the Think Tank guys, and we have another episode of our 52 Ways to Put Your Policy to Work project. Hashtag 52 Ways project on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you're checking us out. We're keeping the theme just around real estate investing for a few weeks. This couple weeks back, Eric started talking to us about, let me check this out. I know we talked about using your policy for a down payment in the past. Then Eric was talking about catching rents. I was talking about fixing and flipping. Eric mentioned the difference between using a home equity line of credit and a policy loan for financing repairs last week. And then here we are. I figured we'd kind of chat again in this space, holding vacancy reserves inside your policy. And what an interesting idea here. Vacancy reserves in general. I mean, listen, those of us that have one or two properties, those of us that have 15, 20, 50 properties, you hate to think of storing, 5, 10, 15 plus percent for vacancy costs, because that in many cases, if we don't have a solution for putting that money to work, especially like in a policy where it's going to grow 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5% every single year, even if we end up having to use it for vacancy. That's actually how I ended up using my first policy loan, was specifically for vacancy in my first rental, as a matter of fact. And one of the things about real estate investing, as you guys know, is we have this property, whatever the property looks like, and we put a tenant in it. A tenant is an asset to us because the tenant effectively pays us rent, right? Pays us rent, and that makes us happy. And then all of a sudden, the tenant goes away. And then there's no rent coming in. And then that makes us not so happy. So then we have to have a place where we store our vacancy reserves to keep paying the mortgage on the property, because our payments to the mortgage company and the bank keeps them happy. And we certainly want to make sure we're doing that to maintain good relationships. But what are our choices? What are our choices in this space of holding our vacancy and reserve dollars? Well, we can hold them in a lazy bank account. I think you guys know by now it kind of defeats the purpose, right? We need some money liquid, but it doesn't all have to sit in a lazy bank account. We could use a HELOC, that's home equity line of credit, or we could use a PLOC, it's a personal line of credit. I guess you could use a business line of credit if you had business credit established. But you can use HELOC or PLOC, and that could be advantageous. The challenge there, and you might be able to get, you might be able to get interest rates maybe as low as 4, maybe as low as 5. On a personal line of credit, you're probably looking at 8 to 9 plus anyway. Listen, it works. There could be checkbook access, but the challenge that we have there is that the terms are completely dictated by the bank. And if things change at all, if anything changes on your side of the equation, if anything changes in the market side of the equation, if anything changes at the bank with their rules on lending, that could disappear. And if you were sticking your vacancy reserves in there thinking that you could access them anytime, and all of a sudden the line changes, I think you can hear the story loud and clear from Eric's talk last week and from me just mentioning it. It's something that's out of your control. And one of the things that we preach here in the think tank is really thinking about investing and controlling your money and putting things in your control as much as you can or want to control, or at least make an educated decision that you want to use a HELOC for that. And understand that you're losing control in that capacity. But lastly, the choice, and that's why we bring it up for this, is if you want to be storing vacancy reserves in a productive place, you can store them in your policy where they're going to consistently grow every single year, and you don't have to save more of your net cash flow from the property to increase your vacancy reserves over time. Actually, the policy will grow on its own. Right? So you get cash into that policy, and then it actually starts to expand. Your line of credit against the policy expands every single year the longer you have cash in there. And then more interestingly, is that a lot of experienced real estate investors know this. If a deal falls on our lap, where do we stick our hands? We stick our hands in our vacant reserves. We jump on it. We use a line of credit, jump on it, grab another deal, and then save it all back up. Well, we can do that same exact thing with our vacancy reserves because we can borrow against the policy, and then those vacancy reserves continue to grow regardless. So we can almost turn our vacancy account into an opportunity account as long as we're wise about that. So think tankers, especially think tankers who are either interested or currently invest in real estate, there's another idea for you. Stay prosperous. Keep your eyes open for more 52 Ways Project videos coming. Any questions, put a note below or contact Eric. In the meantime, be well. Here's to your prosperity.